Bitcoin explosively continuing to trade sideways for now literally 6 months. Both bears and bulls worldwide are on their knees praying that something, literally anything, happens. But what if I told you it's not going to be big? Say it with me, it's going to be mega big. Moonboys worldwide are right now double cheeked up in anticipation of potentially a very big mega move. So let's absolutely dump on in and get signed up with FEMEX below if you want to buy Bitcoin or trade. Over the past few weeks, in fact, actually, it's quite literally, if we really take a look at this, it has been about 170 days that we've just been trading in the same range between about 55 and 70,000 US dollars, with 60,000 kind of being right smack dab in the middle of all the action. This is extremely big. And actually, if we look at this chart of Bitcoin after our most recent low, which is in fact the lowest low that we've put in of this entire range, right? We had not gone this low since all the way back in February of this year. Pretty much, taking us back to the highs, taking us back like 4 or 5 months in terms of price progress. Now already we're again back around that $60,000 level, back recovered already. It literally took a few days. This again, many people I'm sure understand and agree with this. This is the type of candle you want to see, a reversal, a bottoming candle. Very nice candle if you're looking for potentially, hey, maybe we need a nice dump before we actually make this explosive move to the upside. This is the exact type of candle what you want to look for. And we did receive this back on August 5th. So about 8 days ago, we did receive that candle. And then afterwards as well is exactly what you kind of want to see after that type of bottoming candle, which is, first of all, that bottoming candle to be mostly a wick that immediately gets bought back up. And then over the following couple of days, this is where it's very key, like 2, 3, 4 days, you really want to see more confirmation of that, where the price then, spikes higher. And quite literally, that's exactly what happened. On August 8th specifically, Bitcoin went back and actually touched off of 62,000. So overall, just looking at this in a very simple, looking at these very simply in terms of like candlesticks on a daily chart, this is a very promising signal, or a very promising move thus far, if we're actually going to initiate a recovery. Now, the bigger thing I want to talk about actually is on the weekly chart, where the weekly candle close we got is very bullish as well. I mean, look at this candle, mostly a wick. These type of, for example, the besides this one, if you look on my screen, the next closest one is literally right here back in April of 2024. Very massive wick as well. And ultimately, Bitcoin ended up, going higher after that for multiple weeks. Clearly, this was in response to basically an after effect of what happened before here, meaning we just went on like a multi-month absolute explosion to the upside. So yes, it cooled down a little bit, but now we've been quite literally cooling down for 6 months. Okay, let me zoom out and we can get a better picture of this. 6 months, this entire range, this is absolutely very long. 6 months, we have been basically just trading sideways. Okay, we had all of this pump, all of this dump prior to that, and basically you don't really trade sideways much longer than what we've been. So for example, we did actually trade sideways in the summer of last year, and that was about, I want to say about 200 or so days. Currently, we've been trading sideways again about pretty much like 80-90% of that. So we've basically already pretty much matched the length of sideways trading that we got last summer. This time, we actually, in my opinion, got a much stronger bottoming signal with this massive wick right off of this 50-week moving average. I personally think that, my opinion is very clear on this. I personally think we are going to be going a lot higher over the next 6 months, especially as we go into the final quarter of the year, and especially as we begin 2025. I think that the most explosive part of this cycle is very, very close. I think that, I've been repeating myself, but nothing has changed. In fact, as I'm recording this video, Bitcoin's actually going up a little bit as well. Altcoins have been getting decimated. As we, you need to always check the Bitcoin dominance chart. They've been getting decimated since 2022. Altcoins have not had a true altcoin season at all, basically, yet. And I think that's going to be coming later after Bitcoin shatters 6 figures, which I think could be coming before the end of this year. Okay, this is the thing you have to understand about Bitcoin. Look at all this sideways, right? The big explosive moves happen like this. We could see Bitcoin go from $65,000 to $100,000 in 2 weeks. The entire move can take 2 weeks. And based on history, that's actually more likely than a move like that happening over 3 months or something. The moves don't take that long, right? When we go on an explosive rally, they don't take a lot of time. In fact, they happen very quick. A lot of people miss out. Very often, a lot of people miss out. Then they begin speculating on other coins. And very often, honestly, that actually does work. I mean, people end up speculating on stuff once this market gets a little euphoric and people start getting interested. But honestly, Bitcoin needs to break this range. It needs to break 75,000 before I think altcoins are going to really do anything. I think before the space really gets exciting, it's still so sideways and boring. I just personally think that what we've seen so far is just amazing structure that is good. Don't get me wrong, it's insanely boring, and I hate looking at the charts right now. But if we want to have an actual strong, profitable, amazing bull market, honestly, the longer we trade sideways, the more people get shaken out, the more boring it becomes, the higher the chance that actually happens. We've reset so much, and even to this day, we're still resetting some momentum. Honestly, people are probably leaving the space out of sheer boredom. Maybe they'll come back. Like, they probably just have their positions, but they're just not interested in paying attention because of how boring the space is. But that's exactly what you need before any type of mega move. You look before any type of mega move, there is a lot of sideways and a lot of boringness, okay? You need the boringness. You need exactly this environment right now before the mega moves. Still following the Japanese stock market, it's actually been making a nice recovery ever since then, right? Bitcoin in the stock market crashed heavily because of this yen carry trade. There was a fundamental reason for that. And Bitcoin honestly held up really well in terms of like, wow, we're already back. I mean, if I just go back to the daily chart, we're back to where we were before this crash happened. And really, I think 65 is like the really good point to where we could actually start watching to say, okay, maybe we can actually make another attempt at all-time highs. We're not at 65,000 yet, but again, that could happen in a single daily candle. We still have this macro descending broadening wedge that is 6 months long. Do not underestimate how, honestly, a breakout out of this pattern could get us even close to $100,000 per Bitcoin. We have a lot set up on these charts. I mean, the massive cup and handle pattern for Bitcoin. In terms of time after the halving, we're now getting into that sweet spot. Absolutely, we're in that sweet spot to where we could start seeing Bitcoin really start to lift off. The stock market as well is like a really important thing that we want to watch. Today, it's actually up a little bit. And it's also trying to recover from the Japanese carry trade that brought the market crashing at the very beginning of this month, end of July. But yeah, it's looking good. It's not at all-time highs, but it's not far off. I mean, if we look at a daily chart, we're about 4% off of all-time highs on the SPX, whereas we were about 10% down from the all-time highs at the lows. We have about 5% more to the upside before pretty much that would be all behind us. We see the DXY actually maybe making a move to the downside today as well. Stock market does, or the SPX specifically, I think is maybe running into some resistance right where we are. If we break above these two moving average where we just got a bearish cross, which again doesn't necessarily mean much. We just had one back in April and the market ended up going higher afterwards. So honestly, it's a waiting game. I'm heavily leaning to the side that like the next true big sustained move is going to be to the upside. Guys, we just had a breakdown. And there was a fundamental reason behind it. I keep saying it, the yen carry trade. We just had a big breakdown. But look what happened. Very shortly after, just a couple of days after, that entire downside move was erased. I think the next big sustained move for the Bitcoin charts is going to be to the upside. We had an attempt where this can, I guess technically still turn into a massive dump, but it didn't. Right? It very quickly reversed. We know which way this market's positioned. We know which way the Fed is most likely going to pivot in the next meeting. We know what is most likely coming. And basically everything that we have at our fingertips right now, all the information we have, is that this is very likely, because everything's like, it's chances. Everything is, you know, you never know for sure, but you have to calculate what the chances are. And everything is telling us right now, this looks to be like a very, very opportunistic, optimal time to be invested in these markets because, man, I mean, there's a million things, but the most repeated and most important one is where we are when it comes to the Bitcoin halving, the Bitcoin cycle, combined with the liquidity cycle. It's basically, in my opinion, the perfect storm. And my only advice would be like, don't fade this move. What I think is about to happen. It's the most brain dead, most obvious thing. And I remember this back also 4 years ago. Sometimes the most brain dead obvious thing does happen, but before it happens, it's going to test your faith. It's going to test you in terms of like, wow, it's taking forever. I don't know how long I can keep up, right? It's going to test you, and it's not going to be necessarily easy psychologically, especially if you just desperately need instant gratification and you don't have patience. But yeah, I don't know. It looks very good. I'm extremely optimistic on the market. It is incredibly boring staring at the charts every day, which is why I can't make videos every day. But I have never been more excited for a bull market and for where I think this market directionally is headed. I think it's going to be huge, extremely big. And get signed up with FEMX or BINGX below if you're not Bitcoin or altcoins. Without further ado.